Hour number 2, week number 2 of this 2024 college football season, live right here on this second full Saturday. It's College Football Today on SportsGrid. He is OK Dubs. That is Kevin Walsh. He is the mastermind of the college football pigskin. That's Joe Lisi. I am Ben Stevens. A little switcheroo for you to start off this second hour. And now it is time for my top 10, entering weekend number 2. But a small update to what we are going to do now in this new era of college football with the expanded 12-team CFP. When there was just 4 schools getting into the playoff, it made sense to do only 10, but that innovative mind of Kevin Walsh never stops. Now we present, in college fashion, the wait list. Teams barely on the outside, but trying to get in no particular order, despite where you see them in the AP top 25, but just the teams, a group of 5 on the outside of the top 10. Miami, Tennessee, USC, Utah, and Oklahoma State. Kev, we start with you. The wait list. Yeah. Next up here, what do you make of this group of 5 schools?
Truly, I don't know, this probably will never happen again.
Yeah.
I have all 5 of these teams in the college football playoff in my bracket. I have all of them in. I have Miami winning the ACC, Tennessee and USC outright or at-large bids, if you will. And I think there's multiple teams from the Big 12. I think this is the Big 12 championship game. I can only chuckle. I didn't think Miami was going to crash the party. I do wonder with USC and that win, LSU wasn't in your top 10, so how you adjusted off of that, since you're not in love with either football team.
I'm not in love with either the Bayou Bengals or the Trojans this year, but that's incredibly impressive what they did. And one thing stood out to me above the rest, USC limiting LSU to less than 115 yards on the ground. For the worst Pac-12 rushing defense a season ago, that gave up a $184 against a stout LSU offensive line with a complimentary trio of backs there. I thought that was impressive, making the stops when they needed to, and Miller Moss was darn good, winning outright as a 4.5-point underdog.
And that's the start of maybe potentially a college football playoff run, because I have them with LSU in there as well, but their schedule is very difficult, right? They do play Michigan, they play Notre Dame. Those aren't going to be easy matchups. I am curious to see how they respond against Utah State tonight, but they're certainly deserving of being there at 13 overall. I'm intrigued with Utah and Oklahoma State respectively, because we talk about the top teams in the Big 12. These are them, and they have difficult matchups today. So Utah, Baylor, I want to see how that matchup plays out, and I want to see them shut down Arkansas, that big, heavy offensive line.
And just to stick with it, because I don't know how much changes you've made to your top 10, and this is the first time we've done the wait list here, but I obviously, I can remember, and USC has 3 remaining games against teams inside your top 10.
Correct.
So everyone's like, the tough schedule. They beat LSU.
Right.
Now all of a sudden, what if we go 1-2 in those games? Michigan's off a bye. People think Michigan could be down, right? We'll see what happens today. But they're going to play Michigan off a bye, and they're hosting Penn State and Notre Dame.
Yeah.
At 10-2, right? Now, they'd have to avoid trip-ups, and I understand that. USC, I think, should have a shorter price to make the playoff than they do right now. It's still a better than 3-1 number.
But it's still USC, right? I think that's the perception, is that it's USC and they haven't done it.
Right. It was a very impressive win over LSU. It's a resume builder, week number 1. And, of course, it speaks to the strength of what we expect this USC team to do against the ranked foes on the lineup. But that's a really compelling case. A 10-2 USC team is a perfect mold, at least in my estimation, to earn one of those at-large berths in the college football playoff. 2 Big 12 teams down here, by the way, but not my Big 12 preseason pick in Kansas State. If there was a wait list to the wait list at this point, the Wildcats would be outside of that. We'll see what they do today in NOLA. All right, let's get to the top 10. The teams ranked inside my top 10 entering week 2 of this 2024 college football season. Now, the committee thought long and hard. maybe a little bit short-sighted on Sunday in our special edition of CFT of keeping Oregon here. We had to move the Ducks as the odds moved on Oregon as well. Still tied for the third best price to win a national championship alongside Texas, but you can't just beat Idaho as we use the odds as a 48.5-point favorite by 10 and expect to remain in the top 10. So as we move up, Missouri is still here at number 10, Michigan up to number 9, Ole Miss at 8, and Penn State at number number 7, Lisi.
I think it's interesting, Michigan, because let's just say it's a tight game. Let's say they lose 23-20 in the Big House.
Mm-hmm.
Are they falling out of your top 10 potentially? Because that is a critical matchup, whether they make the college football playoff or not. They still play Ohio State. They still have to play some other Big Ten teams that potentially can catapult them in. Oregon is on their schedule as well. What happens in regards to Michigan losing a close game today?
Yeah, I think they would probably go down at least to 10, if not be one of those teams that I would consider 11 or 12 right in the wait list. I would be interested to see what the national championship price is on the Maize and Blue. They still beat Fresno State by 20. They nearly covered thanks to a great defense and defensive performance. Will Johnson, one of the best corners in college football, that 86-yard pick six, tied for the 10th best price now at 35-1 to win a national title, Kev, alongside LSU and Tennessee. Would be fascinating to see how much larger that price grows if they do lose to Texas at home today.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to grow quite a bit because, and it's going to depend on how the game looks, but the perception will be, they're home. You know, let's make this very clear. A loss for Michigan by 3, right? They'll cover the number, and maybe we'll be like, all right, hey, they're okay. They're home. If Michigan wants to win a national championship, they should be able to win this football game. And I won't, spoil it, but since you asked the question on the Michigan side, if Michigan wins, where does Texas go? We're dealing with small sample sizes.
Right.
So if you shoot Texas out of a top 10, I don't think it's the craziest thing. Do you think Texas will be fine?
I think they would stay in the top 10. They would be out of the top 5. I would say in the 7 to 8 range if they were to lose today. They're a 7.5-point favorite. You're right. Michigan's won 23 consecutive games inside the Big House. The environment is something to be said, but they're still close to a touchdown favorite where that line ends up now under a touchdown in some spots.
It's almost like the Alabama factor when they had Nick Saban, right? When Alabama used to lose a game, they would never fall out of the top 10 unless they got blown out or completely embarrassed. Same thing now with Texas. They're looked at as the second-best team in regards to the SEC behind Georgia.
Yeah.
So how do they show? It's going to be an intriguing battle. I am curious about Oregon because if they do cover that number against Boise State, for you, what does that do to them? Does that put you? Do you put them then well into the top 3?
Oh God, no. They beat a G5.
That's a good question.
No, it's a fair question, but top 3, here's my thing. If they beat Boise at home by 21, that's what one of the best teams in college football is supposed to do. I think, to my point, what would that number be if it was Ohio State? What would that number be if it was Georgia? I think it would be certainly 21+ if they were home. And that's why I felt like Oregon was incorrectly tiered through the odds. And, again, it took one game against Idaho for a lot of people to start to see it my way.
And the Ducks were the biggest mover in my top 10, outside from where they were at 3rd last week, now outside of the top 5. Alabama into the top 5, Notre Dame up to number 4, Texas in that 3rd spot at 7-1, and I still have Ohio State ranked ahead of Georgia in my top 10, Kev.
Here's my thing, right? Again, most unbiased man, history of sports media, everybody knows it. Eagles picked to win the Super Bowl. Notre Dame at 4. Give me some hypothetical lines, because the both of you are in on Notre Dame, right?
Yep.
And I know sometimes you do predictive odds to make the playoff and everything. If Notre Dame plays Georgia, what's that line for you guys?
Double digits at the least.
Is that just how big the gap is, though? Like, is Notre Dame favored over this group here across the board for you guys? Not through the odds.
Neutral field, you say.
Yeah.
College football playoff, quarterfinal, semifinal game. I would say
what's the line
3 of the
Penn State?
But I don't think any of those lines.
I would put Notre Dame 4.
-4.
I was going to say 3.5-point favorite.
I actually feel like Penn State would be favored in that game.
They might be, but I don't. I do not like Drew Aller. I'm down on Drew Aller, even based off last year. So that's why I'm giving
Ole Miss, Notre Dame.
I think Notre Dame is probably a 1.5-point favorite.
Love Notre Dame in that spot.
Yeah, love Notre Dame in that spot as well. Plenty more to come here on College Football Today, live on SportsGrid.
The Bostonian versus the book.
Would it make you feel better as a bettor or as a sports fan if they said after the game we were trying to cover the spread?
Oh, God. To say it out loud? Oh my God, no.
So what?
No, to say it out loud? Oh my God, you can't say that out loud. No, you can't even. You can't do that.
Okay, so what is the big deal? Either way.
Oh, play the game the right way.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
I feel like the first person to take a kicker in fantasy football is somebody that feels like, man, I had a really bad draft. Let me make sure I get the best kicker. The way I've always looked at it that way. Like, oh, I did so bad, so let me take Justin Tucker.
The key for me is, though, I make marks. Okay, this guy, I'll highlight him because I don't want 3 or 4 of these guys. I draft 3 or 4 of these guys and they all get hurt. I have no one to blame but me.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
When you're really, really amazing like this, people kind of take it for granted. Same with Ohtani, right? People will sort of see, oh, Ohtani did this, Ohtani did that, and it sort of, becomes normalized a little bit. But to put in context, Aaron Judge joins the 1,000 hit club, reaches, gets it done. So earlier this month, he was the fastest player to reach 300 home runs ever.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Let's go. Welcome to the Live Golf Team Championship. The golf has been mesmerizing. They are the Live Golf Team Champions.
Team golf is back.
Oh, yes! Are you ready?
Let's go!
That's what champions do.
Some teams that made statements in week number 1. How do they back it up now in weekend number 2? Joe Lisi, Kevin Walsh, and Ben Stevens live right here on this second full Saturday of the 2024 college football season on CFT. The most unbiased man in sports media had to enjoy Saturday night in College Station. The Fighting Irish plus the points is always the theme, and it came through. Not needing the points, winning outright by double digits, 23-13 against Texas A&M. Notre Dame back at home in South Bend for the home opener this year, year number 3 under Marcus Freeman. So, most unbiased man, 27.5-point spread in favor of the Irish, a total only at 45 and a hook. What do you think we see in game 2 for Notre Dame this season?
I think it's an obvious Northern Illinois spot with what we've seen from Marcus Freeman. I try not to use the year 1 too much. He was fine in his rhythm, and they go to Ohio State, hang, lose the Marshall outright next week. They beat Clemson. Then all of a sudden the next week it's a 3-point game against Navy. But Navy had to backdoor that number, but they still did, and they covered comfortably. You go through some of the stuff last year. They beat a ranked Duke. They lose next week. It was still a ranked Louisville. It's hard to trust Notre Dame here. The reason I didn't grab Northern Illinois, and maybe I am being influenced too much by a Marcus Freeman hype-up video prior to the game against Texas A&M, but sometimes teams take a leap. And again, I'm ready to be wrong. It's going to happen in a couple of spots. So just quickly, but with the wait list, I'm like, wow, I have all those teams in. You know what that means? Your whole top 10, I'm like, I don't have a lot of these teams in. I'm going to be wrong in some spots here. Notre Dame jumps off as one of them. And if this team's taking a leap, Joe, you know what? Instead of no-showing this game and it being 10-7 at half, Notre Dame routes this football team here. And the fact that I think it's on the board, I backed off the game. I would certainly lean Northern Illinois.
Oh, well, I would lay it with Notre Dame because, again, I'm all in regards to the offensive line play. You saw them wear down Texas A&M. They played that game last week in College Station almost like a prize fight, right? They were the counter puncher. They waited until maybe Texas A&M punched themselves out, and then once they had their opportunity with about 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, they scored and then took over from the defensive perspective, and I think they start fast and run the football on Northern Illinois. Now, they're 10-0 all-time. Notre Dame is against MAC opponents. They've struggled in years past in regards to allowing these teams in the matchup, but they have the better quarterback in this ball game. But I don't even think it comes to Riley Leonard. I think it just comes down to the physicality of the offensive line. I think they're able to run it for 200-plus yards today with Love and those backs. That's the difference. They cover this number easy.
Last week, Notre Dame put up 198 rushing yards. All three of their guys, led by Jeremiah Love, who had 91 yards, had 44-plus on the ground. Jadarian Price finding the end zone as well, and Riley Leonard flashing the athleticism, 63 rushing yards. But only 158 passing yards for Leonard in his Notre Dame debut. Northern Illinois, under Thomas Hammock, has been really, really good. Sixth best passing defense in the country last year, allowing less than 165 yards per game. In Northern Illinois last year, 4-1 against the spread as an underdog, 3 victories outright. Last 3 years since the start of 2021, 13-5-1 ATS as a dog, one of 8 teams around the country in FBS college football to have a 70% cover percentage or better the last 3 years. It is a large spread. It's 4 touchdowns in favor of the Irish, but just something to keep in mind. If you believe in Penn State, as I do, that it's college football playoff or bust this year, you absolutely had to love what we saw last week against the Mountaineers of West Virginia. 34.5-point spread now in favor of the Nittany Lions, Joe, after a 34-12 rout over the Mountaineers last week in Morgantown. You said during the top 10, as you looked at Penn State, number 7 in my rankings, you still do not believe in Drew Aller. Last week looked pretty good, though, in his first game with Andy Kotelnicki as the OC.
He did, and he had a great game last year against West Virginia. Over 300 yards last year. This game, 215. The offensive line took over. They were able to run it with Singleton and Allen, and defense forced turnovers against Garrett Green. When you look at just the MAC perspective with Penn State, they have dominated since 2014, 8-0 all time, and have won those games by an average margin of victory, Kev, of 29.7 points per game, but this Bowling Green team could score. Former Missouri quarterback Connor Bazelak is the gunslinger. Again, I don't think they're going to win this matchup, but the over-perception, I mean, West Virginia was a huge dog play by a lot of people. So they bet West Virginia. All of a sudden, they get smashed by Penn State, and now they're going to lay it with Penn State against a Bowling Green team. I'm going to take the 34.5. This line got up as high as 35.5, 36 midweek. They brought it back down. Give me the 34.5 with Bowling Green.
I'm on Katron Allen. Clear and obvious bounce back spot. Simple as that. Last season, only 2 games with less than 50 rushing yards. In the follow-up game, he had 68 on the ground and then 81 on the ground. At no point last year did he have consecutive games with less than 62 rushing yards. His prop is 61.5. His number today is 16 yards lower than Nick Singleton. I know Singleton's a special back. Last year, season-long, total carries, 1 more for Katron Allen. This is a split backfield here. Allen gets his against Bowling Green.
Singleton was the big name, a couple of big runs in that second half against WVU. 13 carries, 114 yards, and a touchdown. But Katron Allen, although the yards were not there, still double-digit carries a week ago. Penn State, when expected to beat a team, it's what they do. The Nittany Lions covered as a 7.5-point favorite last week, 18-4-1 against the number as a favorite the last 2 years. Just in the last 2 years, they've lost to teams like Michigan and Ohio State in each of the last 2, and Ole Miss in the bowl game. But as a favorite, the only team in the country covering in more than 80% of their games the last 2 seasons. Kev, speaking of Ole Miss, 772 yards last week against Furman, 76 total points, the most of any team in the country in college football. The Runnin' Rebs now a 2.5-point favorite in week number 2 against an FBS foe in Middle Tennessee State. Can the Runnin' Rebels cover this large number based on what you saw last week?
It's certainly possible. You guys know I'm not in on this team, but I'll tell you right now, Jackson Dart will be the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy at the end of the day. Last week, Middle Tennessee allowed Jordan Potts of Tennessee Tech to throw for 3 scores. Jackson Dart is going to do whatever he wants.
Yeah, get Jackson Dart, Ole Miss, and definitely the over later tonight.
Yeah, you see that number. It's 42.5 in favor of the Rebels. It's 61.5 for that total. How about some other teams that make statements in week 1, now in week 2? We'll break them down up next.
The Bostonian versus the book.
Would it make you feel better as a better or as a sports fan if they said after the game we were trying to cover the spread?
Oh God, to say it out loud. Oh my God, no.
So what?
To say it out loud. Oh my God, you can't say that out loud. No, you can't even. You can't do that.
Okay, so what is the big deal? Either way.
Oh, play the game the right way.
The Bostonian versus the book.
I feel like the first person to take a kicker in fantasy football is somebody that feels like, man, I had a really bad draft. Let me make sure I get the best kicker. The way I've always looked at it that way. Like, oh, I did so bad, so let me take Justin Tucker.
The key for me is, though, I make marks. Okay, this guy, I'll highlight him because I don't want 3 or 4 of these guys. I draft 3 or 4 of these guys and they all get hurt. I have no one to blame but me.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
When you're really, really amazing like this, people kind of take it for granted. Same with Ohtani, right? People will sort of see, oh, Ohtani did this, Ohtani did that, and it sort of, becomes normalized a little bit. But to put in context, Aaron Judge joins the 1,000 hit club, reaches, gets it done. So earlier this month, he was the fastest player to reach 300 home runs ever.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Let's go. Welcome to the Live Golf Team Championship. The golf has been mesmerizing. They are the Live Golf Team Champions.
Team golf is back.
Oh, yes!
Are you ready?
Let's go! That's what champions do.
Teams that made statements in week number 1, now in week 2. USC on Sunday night in Las Vegas, knocking off LSU outright as an underdog. Miami going into the swamp and absolutely lambasting the Gators on the season debut of 2024. We start with Southern Cal and the Trojans. Home debut this year inside the LA Memorial Coliseum, hosting Utah State. Now, Utah State last week against Robert Morris put up 646 yards, but only scored 36 points. A couple of familiar quarterback names for the Aggies. Spencer Petras, the former Iowa quarterback, got the start, but then was a little bit banged up. So Bryson Barnes, the former Utah starter at the quarterback spot, now for Utah State. USC, of course, last week, impressive, Kev, in their performance in Sin City. Now greater than a 4-touchdown favorite against Utah State back in downtown L.A. What do the Trojans do for a response?
I think they'll obviously handle business in terms of winning the football game because that is most important, though it is a tough spot with how I feel like that game against LSU ended up being the best game of the week. The back and forth nature of it all, the trip to Vegas for USC. I know it's not a lot of distance, but I just there's so much into it, right? It's going to be really difficult to cover a 4-touchdown number like this. Hard not to lean the Aggies' way. Well, one thing that I am interested in is, does USC at all have a chip on their shoulder? Mm-hmm. Again, a preseason ranking for USC, barely inside the top 25. I mean, they're scratching and clawing with Kansas for pole positioning. Kansas football. And I have people telling me that this is normal. I'm having people telling me Lincoln Riley's never done it before. I mean, can you believe people were saying such things?
One game. Here we go. We're going. I have them in the college football playoff.
No, and I know because sometimes I think the genius brain of yours wins out over the nonsense.
Beautiful place to be
around Lincoln Riley and USC, showing him some respect accidentally. Here's my question.
Want me to pray to the church of Lincoln Riley?
No, I just want you to stop ranking, Joe Schmoes over him. Here's my story.
Okay. Let's
No. Miller Moss.
Yes.
Okay. How much of it is him? How much of it is Lincoln? And does it matter? Because after one game, oh, by the way, Lincoln Riley has one of the 10 best quarterbacks in college football again.
Well, I think Miller Moss is a very good quarterback. He proved that last year in regards to the bowl win over Louisville, 360 yards, 70 yards, 6 touchdowns. And that was a pretty good top 25 Louisville defense heading into that matchup with Jeff Brom. So he picked them apart. We know they have weapons, and we know they could score. I will say this. Miller Moss what you see is what you get, meaning he plays within the scheme where Caleb maybe created too much just to make plays out of nothing. It's either going to be there or it's not with Miller Moss. He does a great job, great touch on his balls. Yeah. And again, they have a rushing attack now. The biggest thing for me, big picture, is their defense with Lynn. Big ball game, right? Big matchup. They can run the football with Woody Marks. They could shut down the run the way they did against Louisville, LSU last week. And that's the difference in regards to big picture. I think they're going to be there. They're going to be a contender in the Big Ten. And I'll say this, Ben, 63.5 for tonight's number. I think it's dead under because of that defense.
Wow, under 63.5. USC held LSU to only 113 rushing yards last week in Las Vegas. Still 4.5 yards per carry, but that's a statement for a team that gave up $184 per game a season ago. Utah State, albeit against FCS, Robert Morris ran for 303 yards last week. Another test, perhaps, for the Trojans. Just 9-13 against the number in the 2 years under Lincoln Riley when booked as a favorite. This is almost your segment. Miami last week, a statement in the swamp, 41-17, the victory for the Canes. 44.5-point favorite this week against perhaps the best team from Tallahassee. Florida A&M, a 9-win football team each of the last 3 years at the FCS level, each of the last 4 years. Last year, played in the Celebration Bowl to kick off bowl season after a 12-win campaign. Florida A&M's won 13 straight games, Kev. Are the Canes tested today?
Maybe. Not really. This total was 59.5. It went down to 53.5. If it was still 59.5, I would look under. I think it's the move correctly. You say it's my segment. I have nothing to say. At some point, this will come around.
Right.
I want to know what I'm just curious where you at. I mean, Miami, we did a lot of it last week.
Week one performance. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Let me ask
you had
this.
a great week one. I was terrible.
It's not even.
It
wasn't even about the picks. It was about teams that I'm high on. No, here's my serious question.
Yes.
Right now, who do you think wins the ACC?
I still think Clemson and Miami right now. I think because of Clemson's defense, they bounce back. In regards to this, great number because Miami's 10-1 all-time against FAMU. Yeah. They've won by 45.2 points per game, right on the number today.
I think FAMU covers only 5-10 against the spread for Miami as a favorite under Mario Cristobal. You see what he's throwing up. More on CFT next.
The Bostonian versus the book.
Would it make you feel better as a bettor or as a sports fan if they said after the game we were trying to cover the spread?
Oh, God. To say it out loud? Oh, my God, no.
So what,
to say it out loud? Oh, my God. You can't say that out loud. No, you can't even. You can't do that.
Okay, so what is the big deal either way?
Oh, play the game the right way.
The Bostonian versus the book.
I feel like the first person to take a kicker in fantasy football is somebody that feels like, man, I had a really bad draft. Let me make sure I get the best kicker. The way I've always looked at it that way. Like, oh, I did so bad, so let me take Justin Tucker.
The key for me is, though, I make marks. Okay, this guy, I'll highlight him because I don't want 3 or 4 of these guys. I draft 3 or 4 of these guys and they all get hurt. I have no one to blame but me.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
When you're really, really amazing like this, people kind of take it for granted. Same with Ohtani, right? People will sort of see, oh, Ohtani did this, Ohtani did that, and it sort of, becomes normalized a little bit. But to put in context, Aaron Judge joins the 1,000 hit club, gets it done. So earlier this month, he was the fastest player to reach 300 home runs ever.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Let's go. Welcome to the Live Golf Team Championship. The golf has been mesmerizing. They are the Live Golf Team champions.
Team golf is back.
Oh, yes!
Are you ready?
Let's go! That's what champions do.
Again, it bears repeating that we have 75 FBS college football games on the second full Saturday of the 2024 season. So we must go fast once again.
We're kind of becoming a little bit predictable with this offense. No, we're not. This is the second time we've done it. That's the first time we've ever done it twice. What if we do it 3 times next week? You won't see it coming either way. It's RPO time. Now, listen, folks, at the end of the day, this is the biggest slate that we have, and it puts us in a position to try and go through as many of these games as we possibly can. And it even allows us to give some time to the Syracuse Orange. Go ahead. No. I know everyone likes we go right. No. It goes right back to you. It doesn't go 1-2 to 3. It goes 1-2 back to 1. Talk to me here on Syracuse.
2.5-point spread in favor of the Bees. Georgia Tech now ranked 23rd in the country. My Syracuse Orange at home in the JMA Dome, looking for an upset to now start ACC play for SU. I'm nervous, though, because of what Syracuse put on tape last week. See, this is what I mean. I can't even talk on air.
Whoa.
I can't even say.
He's just trying to get a read on you.
Keep the 3 shot up.
He's trying to get a read on you.
Keep the 3 shot up, because when you go solo shot, our audience does not see. I am being bullied by my coworkers, and namely the mastermind over there. You guys looked at each other. By the way, I think Georgia Tech runs the football a lot today. They ran for 225 yards last week against Georgia State, 6.6 yards per carry. Jamal Haynes in the Haynes backfield, 75 yards at least in both games for G Tech this year. 3 total touchdowns. Syracuse allowed Anthony Tyus III for Ohio last week to have 203 yards on the ground and 2 tuds. Syracuse allowed 147 yards per game last year, and Marlo Wax, the Orange's leading tackler last year with more than 100 tackles, is now out for at least a month and a half. I'm scared.
Yeah. Don't be scared. I think, listen, I've heard from some good people here today that Cuse could be the side. What say you?
I like Georgia Tech. I'm not betting this game in any capacity. In any capacity. Now,
Ben can be all in on the Orange.
Georgia Tech can run it, averaging over 200 yards per game. This is their 3rd game of the season, and I think that's the difference. They have the more experienced quarterback in regards to the scheme with Haynes King. McCord stepped up, but you talk about Syracuse that allowed 6.7 yards per carry last week. That was a blue-collar offense in Ohio, not an elite offense. They're going to be challenged today and only laying 2.5 on the road. I'm going to lay it with Georgia Tech, but again, a no play for right now. We'll see how it plays out.
I feel like Rondo with the upside-down headband. I'm in full facilitator mode. Let's keep it in the Big Ten here, even though we were just doing the ACC. But anytime Ben's around, we're always in the Big Ten. Michigan State, Maryland, Lisi, Sparty. Terps were someone's sneaky best bet. They didn't even tell people about that last week. That's BWS here.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. I know, but we were doing like the big game best bets.
Right.
UConn dominated. All right, so you're all over Maryland today.
I like them today. They've won 2 straight in the series. They won last year 31-9. I think that defensive front could step up, held opponents right now 80 rushing yards per game. That's the difference to me. Yeah. We know that Michigan State wants to run it with Nate Carter and that Lynch Edwards. He's a beast, let me tell you. But again, the game's going to fall on Aiden Childs. That is the difference, and that's why I like Maryland.
Aiden Childs not great last week in his Michigan State debut. Just 10 of 24, 114 yards, 2 picks. His first collegiate start, played at Oregon State under Jonathan Smith in his true freshman season. Did not get a start over DJ Uiagalelei. Did have a rushing touchdown. K'Ron Lynch-Adams, the transfer from UMass, 101 yards on the ground and a touchdown. Here is the concern for Maryland. It was the reason I was on the Terps last week against UConn. In non-conference play, Maryland has a 13-game win streak straight up, and under Mike Locksley, who became the head coach in College Park in 2019 in full, they're 12-4 against the spread in non-conference play. But this is the Big Ten opener for both teams. The Terps just 15-26 ATS in Big Ten play under Mike Locksley. That's the 7th worst in all of FBS college football against conference foes in that span. 2nd worst for a power conference team. Kev, only Stanford is worse. An SEC opener, the first SEC game of the year, Kentucky and South Carolina. The Cats looking pretty good in a rain and weather-shortened game last week against Southern Miss. 31-zip, covering as a 25.5-point favorite, one of 3 schools, along with Texas and Alabama, to shut out an FBS opponent in week number 1. They get South Carolina today. Tested last week by Old Dominion, had a lead with 7 minutes left in that football game, and you can see in Lexington, Kentucky greater than a touchdown favorite. How does the SEC opener this year go for both the Gamecocks and the Cats?
Looks like a sneaky sizzle over here for me. Vandegrift was letting it rip last week. South Carolina has to bounce back offensively. They bring in Rocket Sanders. We know the kid has juice. Beamer's got to get this group on the roll here. They were nearly upset by ODU due to a really slow start for that offense. I think we can get points.
You might get me on that over, but I'm starting to like South Carolina. I think you're getting an inflated number. South Carolina has won 2 straight in the series, including last year, 17-14. The reason why I think you're seeing the number so inflated is that South Carolina last year was 0-5 on the road or on a neutral field. Yeah. I think there's very even in regards to both of these teams. Sellers needs to step up, but give me the points. And Kev, you might get me in on the over later.
41.5 is that number. Kentucky under Mark Stoops in SEC play has won 4 conference games in 5 of the last 8 seasons, but just 3-5 straight up each of the last 2 years under Shane Beamer. The first losing season last year in Columbia in SEC play the last 3 seasons, 12-12 against the spread. Hand up, I was wrong. You called Evan Svoboda, I believe his first name is, yeah. Josh Allen Light. Right. He's Josh Allen Light. 2 interceptions, 1 lost fumble, 3 total turnovers against Arizona State, who absolutely hammered Wyoming last week. The Sun Devils stay in Tempe, 5.5-point favorite against Mississippi State. First ever meeting between these 2 teams. The Bulldogs played Arizona in the last few seasons, but first time against ASU. Under a touchdown, Kev, what do you like?
Hold on a second. I need to test. Where do you lean in this game?
I'm mad.
If you had to, where would you lean?
I'd actually probably go Mississippi State as an underdog.
What do you think?
I love Arizona State in this matchup.
Miss State.
All right, even better. I think Kenny Dillingham is building something here.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
And I'll say this: Blake Shapen, the former Baylor quarterback, is now leading the Miss State offense. He threw for 247 and 3 touchdowns. Going on the road in the desert, that's going to be a cause of concern. 90-degree weather. Sam Levitt could be the real deal. 258 last week, and that Arizona front 7 held their opponents last week. 44 yards rushing. That is the difference to me.
Listen, I can give people 2 levels of breakdowns here. The very serious breakdown is last week. This is basically the same number it was against Wyoming. I think we're overinflated now due to the fact that they smashed Wyoming. Yeah. The non-serious is, and I know you think at times there's poking and prodding. In the beginning of the segment, there wasn't. Him chuckling, laughing when you brought that game up is because he fully believes that last week you saved his Saturday by the Arizona State-Wyoming game. No. Hold on a minute. Trust me. You're on the opposite side here. What goes around comes around. Miss State Bulldogs. Woof, woof, woof.
I hope your brother's in arms, and that's God bless. But I'll say this. What goes on in regards to behind the scenes, he was going like this. This Swoboda. This Swoboda. So that is why. And you didn't hear it. So
he said it. He said it last week.
Said it.
Fully transparent.
I said it
on air.
I
this
said it.
Evan Svoboda guy, and he was just. So let me chuckle then. Texas Tech played a big number last week against Abilene Christian. 34.5-point underdog. They nearly lost if ACU would have converted on the 2-point conversion in overtime. Would have been the 9th biggest upset in FBS history. Now a virtual pick-em on the Palouse tonight, Lisi. Give us a quick pick.
This is a sledgehammer play. They might be without Taj Brooks. I think they dominate this ball game. 10 double-digit win for Tech tonight.
Jake Dickert, I don't leave you behind, brother. Wazoo was never left behind. Give me the Cougs. Alt line -9.5. Some Heisman trophy. This is week 2 only. Heisman Trophy talk up next.
Oh, I like this.
The Bostonian versus the book.
Would it make you feel better as a bettor or as a sports fan if they said after the game we were trying to cover the spread?
Oh, God. To say it out loud? Oh my God, no.
So what?
No, to say it out loud? Oh my God, you can't say that out loud. No, you can't do that.
Okay, so what is the big deal? Either way.
Oh, play the game the right way.
The Bostonian versus the book.
I feel like the first person to take a kicker in fantasy football is somebody that feels like, man, I had a really bad draft. Let me make sure I get the best kicker. The way I've always looked at it that way. Like, oh, I did so bad, so let me take Justin Tucker.
The key for me is, though, I make marks. Okay, this guy, I'll highlight him because I don't want 3 or 4 of these guys. I draft 3 or 4 of these guys and they all get hurt. I have no one to blame but me.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
When you're really, really amazing like this, people kind of take it for granted. Same with Ohtani, right? People will sort of see, oh, Ohtani did this, Ohtani did that, and it sort of, becomes normalized a little bit. But to put in context, Aaron Judge joins the 1,000 hit club, gets it done. So earlier this month, he was the fastest player to reach 300 home runs ever.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Let's go. Welcome to the Live Golf Team Championship. The golf has been mesmerizing. They are the Live Golf Team Champions.
Team golf is back.
Oh, yes!
Are you ready?
Let's go! That's what champions do.
Week number 2 of the 2024 college football season. He is Kevin Walsh. He is Joe Lisi. I am Ben Stevens. Time for some Heisman talk and the updated odds following week number 1. We now have co-favorites in a 3-way tie at the top of the odds board to strike that pose in early December. Dillon Gabriel was the short favorite entering week 1, still threw for 380 yards, but in a tough victory against Idaho. Jackson Dart, a huge day. We'll talk him in just a second. But, Kev, I didn't want to start with Cam Ward, plus 850. The Miami quarterback now a co-favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. It represents a ton of positive odds movement for the Hurricanes in the last 7 days. A 60-1 price to win a national championship, down by a third. It is 20-1 now for the Hurricanes. Correlate those props. The odds market optimistic about Miami.
So my belief this year with the Heisman Trophy is you have to be in the playoff and you have to be statistically a monster. So I think that this week's game against FAMU is almost as important as Florida last week for Miami, because this is where you can bring those numbers way out of range. We don't have to get into all the listen, here's my point. Dillon Gabriel last week missed a huge opportunity. They were supposed to score 50 points. I know the yards were good. The completion percentage was good. Jackson Dart, 400 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 on the ground as well, so 6 total scores.
Yeah.
That's going to matter. It won't, when we're doing the counting stats, nobody will be like, whoa, 5 of those were against Furman. Eliminate those. So for Cam Ward today, last week, boom, I'm in the conversation. This week, 4 touchdowns at the break. Cam Ward's got Miami at a whole nother level. He scores 2, right? 220 passing. This number's coming down.
No, I agree with that. I'll just say this in regards to this value at plus 850. Let's say he does 385, just what he did in 4 touchdowns. Yeah. Is he moving, in your opinion, from plus 850 to 4-1? I say no.
I agree.
So I think when you look at the value on the board right now, I'm looking at Milroe. I'm looking at Carson Beck. The reason why is meaningful games as well. When you look at Miami's schedule, they don't have, I believe FSU is early October. Yeah. So that is their first real game, that obviously outside of Florida. So I don't think we'll see a lot of fluctuation from now till maybe October in regards to Ward at these prices.
Let me ask you, Ben, do you think that Cam Ward, because Joe's right, with the way FSU's dropped off, Clemson not on the schedule, Vatech a disaster. Yeah. People thought they might end up ranked at some point. I don't recall if they play NC State.
They don't.
Louisville, right, would be that other team possibly who did get themselves ranked. Do you think Cam Ward, though, could get the lift of he brought Miami back?
Yeah,
because we knew this would be great. We knew this would be great.
Yeah.
Come on, we know Miami, in a way, when you look at these logos, it's like, whoa, we got a guy in the top 5.
For sure. It's part of the reason people love the U. The conversations around college football the last decade. Is Texas back? Is Miami back? And right now, at least after a one-game sample size, Cam Ward has the Canes on that chartered path. It was part of the optimism for Mario Cristobal and the Canes entering year number 3. To your point about the ACC slate, Florida State at the end of October, they have that game at home, and Miami does not have to play Clemson nor NC State in this college football season. Plus 850 for Cam Ward, a ton of movement. Now, this is the top 5. Jalen Milroe also saw his price shortened by $4 at 10-1. 9 pass attempts, only 9 last week against Western Kentucky. Still threw for more than 220 yards, multiple touchdown passes, multiple rushing scores, and more than 70 on the ground as well. An intriguing game that we'll talk about a little bit later against South Florida today, Joe, where last year, if you remember, Bama at USF, tested by the Bulls. Byron Brown, also a really good running quarterback for USF. An opportunity today for Milroe to continue to make those statements in Kalen DeBoer's offense.
It is. They struggled completely in regards to Tampa in that matchup. They laid 32.5. They barely covered in regards to that matchup. And again, this is another opportunity for Jalen Milroe to not just put up numbers, but to get more acclimated in Kalen DeBoer's offense. So I expect them to put up numbers today. I think from the spread perspective, I might take a shot on USF plus the 29.5 and 30. But again, he's going to have that opportunity now. He has a rushing attack with them, and the way that defense stepped up and held Western Kentucky, they're going to have multiple opportunities to score. I'll just throw this out as well. If Ewers wins today, where does he go in regards to the equation?
I love the question, and this is kind of where I'm at on the Heisman. I think he'll move if they win, right? But if you tell me it's a low total today, right?
Yeah.
260, 2 scores, picked. He'll move, I think, more than he should. I really, if you were to tell me, hey, does the Heisman go to one of the top 2 seeds? I would say no. I don't think there's a reason Will Howard's not up here, right? I mean, he's at 20-1. That's a big drop off when you think about where Ohio State is, right? I know Beck is up there with the Bulldogs. I think some of that is his NFL prospects kind of carrying him up to that window there. I think Nico could be a big mover today,
for sure,
with what we saw from that team. And I still don't know if Hunter can get there, man. I still don't know if Hunter.
If he goes to $150 and 3 tutties tonight and they win.
Listen, Colorado is the story of September, right? You've said this before. Yeah. They're good. Is as good as you will see. But people also give them that notoriety, hoping that they falter. We'll see what happens today in Lincoln. We'll get to Travis in just a moment. The 11-1 price on Quinn Ewers is interesting. We saw that group of 14-1 quarterbacks, Nico Iamaleava, Will Howard, and Jalen Milroe. We saw the positive movement on Jalen Milroe. Not much for Quinn Ewers. Threw for 260 in Texas's opener. Arch comes in because they were hammering Colorado State. Arch Manning throws his first touchdown in Austin, runs for 1 as well. We'll talk about this as we continue to break down the big games of the week, Joe. But Ewers last year in the 5 matchups for Texas against a ranked foe threw for at least 317 yards in all 5, averaging over 350. Quinn Ewers can stack it up. Will be very difficult against a stout Michigan secondary.
Yeah, and that's why I think he can move, right? Because if he puts up a 350-yard performance, they tack on 40 and snap the 23-game home win streak. Maybe he goes from 11-1 to 6-1.
I'll just say this again. You're not getting out of any of these segments without me bringing it up. Ollie Gordon. Again, we look for these big games, right?
Sure.
But we're talking about guys having big games against bad teams. 130.5 is his prop against an SEC team. It is a different level of back, man.
The Razorbacks, the 5th worst rushing defense in the SEC a season ago. More breakdowns come your way next.
The Bostonian versus the book.
Would it make you feel better as a bettor or as a sports fan if they said after the game we were trying to cover the spread?
Oh, God. To say it out loud? Oh, my God, no.
So what,
to say it out loud? Oh, my God. You can't say that out loud. No, you can't do that.
Okay, so what is the big deal either way?
Oh, play the game the right way.
The Bostonian versus the book.
I feel like the first person to take a kicker in fantasy football is somebody that feels like, man, I had a really bad draft. Let me make sure I get the best kicker. The way I've always looked at it that way. Like, oh, I did so bad, so let me take Justin Tucker.
The key for me is, though, I make marks. Okay, this guy, I'll highlight him because I don't want 3 or 4 of these guys. I draft 3 or 4 of these guys and they all get hurt. I have no one to blame but me.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
When you're really, really amazing like this, people kind of take it for granted. Same with Ohtani, right? People will sort of see, oh, Ohtani did this, Ohtani did that, and it sort of, becomes normalized a little bit. But to put in context, Aaron Judge joins the 1,000 hit club, gets it done. So earlier this month, he was the fastest player to reach 300 home runs ever.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Let's go. Welcome to the Live Golf Team Championship. The golf has been mesmerizing. They are the Live Golf Team Champions.
Team golf is back.
Oh, yes!
Are you ready?
Let's go! That's what champions do.
Our 3 games of the week for week number 2, live right here on College Football Today. And the individuals that will impact the outcome and the score if they can find the end zone, Kev.
Listen, folks, it's time for a couple of pylon plays. We'll do our pay dirt picks right now. All right, let's get straight to it. Michigan, Texas here, and there's only one spot where we're seeing minus money, and it's actually not on Donovan Edwards. Joe, are you looking for the big man in the end zone?
He might get there, but I'm not going to bet him. I'm on his rushing prop in regards to yardage, 70 up to 110 plus. But I go to the tight end in regards to this matchup. If you're back in Michigan, look for goal line type of situations. I think Loveland, the tight end, at plus 285, guys, could be great in regards to that. And I'll take a shot on the Michigan defense. They got the pick 6 last week. Why not do it again in back-to-back weeks against Quinn Ewers?
A Michigan defensive touchdown prop did not take you long, my friend. A 6.5-point spread in favor of Texas. Total now at 41 and a hook. Jaden Blue, not the leading rusher last week for Texas. Jared Gibson was the leading rusher. A couple of backs that we expected to probably be the workhorse for their team, not necessarily in this matchup. Donovan Edwards had less carries and less yards than that of Kalel Mullings, who has that second best touchdown price for Michigan. Next up, we go to one of our other games of the week. Tonight in Lincoln, Nebraska, it's Colorado and the Huskers. The best price on the board, slightly in minus money, Travis Hunter. He had 3 receiving scores last week, Kev, against North Dakota State.
Yeah, it's a little surprising the Hunter price isn't more with this total here, and the fact that he seemingly is just automatic to get the football thrown his way. I am trying to pick my spot with a Shadur Sanders rushing touchdown there. Yeah. He's not the most mobile quarterback, but he has kind of a nose for the end zone inside that 5 or so yard line. At plus 370 price is not a terrible number on Shadur.
No, I'll take a shot on Jimmy Horn, right? We talk about Travis Hunter, Shadur. Give me Jimmy Horn. I think he's hot. You ride the hot hand entering this matchup. And if you're on Nebraska, how about Dylan Raiola to potentially hit pay dirt with his legs? He's carrying this team on his shoulders. If he gets inside the goal line or inside red zone opportunities inside the 5, he might tuck it and run.
Raiola, 2 touchdown passes last week, the first of his Nebraska career, into the arms of Isaiah Nair, and what a ball it was, plus 125. Emmett Johnson, keep an eye on him. Both his touchdown price scored last week was NU's leading rusher and his rushing yards prop. We'll talk about that in hour 3. Lastly here, we go to the top 25 tilt tonight in Charlotte. It's NC State and Tennessee. Joe, the Volunteers 9.5-point favorite. Last week it was Dylan Sampson. 3 rushing touchdowns. He's got a minus 280 price to find Pater against the Wolfpack.
Yeah, I mean, I like to look. They're going to feed him. He's the one back. Last year they had 3. He was in number 3 behind Wright and Small. He's going to get touches. Concepcion is a Swiss Army knife, the Jalen Samuels type, right, for NC State. But again, we have a mobile quarterback in Grayson McCall. I think in this type of situation, McCall steps up.
I'll just say it was just weird. McCall for 3 years had a 3-year window of 17 rushing touchdowns, and then last year at Coastal was just 1. I don't know if something is up with that, but it's a good number.
Yeah.
I just don't know if he's willing to run. It was weird.
Quickly here on Nico Iamaleava before we give you some even bigger plus money prices. 3 rushing touchdowns against Iowa in the Citrus Bowl. Keep an eye on the number today. No rushing yards prop out yet on Nikki Treats that I can find. I will be looking out for the legs. Cole Gonzalez, 75 rushing yards last week for Western Carolina. But now, even bigger plus money prices.
Folks, let's make it happen here. Time for us to go for the loot. Vault's open. We're looking for moneyline dogs or whatever I do, basically whatever I want. Riley Leonard, 2+ touchdowns is 6-1. He likes to score against mismatched teams. He had 2+ last year against Northwestern, 2+ against NCA&T 2 years ago, 2+ on the ground in a matchup against Virginia as well. His debut at home as the Notre Dame quarterback, I think he finds the end zone twice.
I like UL Monroe outright. They're catching 13.5, but General Booty's there, the former Oklahoma quarterback, only 104 yards through the air. I think they open it up today. Very inexperienced secondary for UAB. That's the difference.
You're really flirting with the integrity of this segment. We started looking for big plus money prices in terms of props and game specials when we didn't have a ton of money lines during bowl season. I digress. App State plus 540. Commence Joe Lisi's smile. I do think the Mountaineers keep this game within the number against the Tigers, and I think Joey Aguilar is going to throw for a lot against Clemson. And Caden Robinson, his top target, is going to be the beneficiary. Hour number 3, our third and final, up next.
The Bostonian versus the book.
Would it make you feel better as a bettor or as a sports fan if they said after the game we were trying to cover the spread?
Oh, God. To say it out loud? Oh, my God, no.
So what,
no. To say it out loud? Oh, my God. You can't say that out loud. No, you can't even. You can't do that.
Okay, so what is the big deal either way?
Oh, play the game the right way.
The Bostonian versus the book.
I feel like the first person to take a kicker in fantasy football is somebody that feels like, man, I had a really bad draft. Let me make sure I get the best kicker. That's the way I've always looked at it that way. Like, oh, I did so bad, so let me take Justin Tucker.
The key for me is, though, I make marks. Okay, this guy, I'll highlight him because I don't want 3 or 4 of these guys. I draft 3 or 4 of these guys and they all get hurt. I have no one to blame but me.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
When you're really, really amazing like this, people kind of take it for granted. Same with Ohtani, right? People will sort of see, oh, Ohtani did this, Ohtani did that, and it sort of, becomes normalized a little bit. But to put in context, Aaron Judge joins the 1,000 hit club, reaches, gets it done. So earlier this month, he was the fastest player to reach 300 home runs ever.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Let's go. Welcome to the Live Golf Team Championship. The golf has been mesmerizing. They are the Live Golf Team champions.
Team golf is back.
Oh, yes!
Are you ready?
Let's go! That's what champions do.